Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the planning public meeting for 7 Park Road North. Just have a couple of announcements. First off, live streaming. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Do any members of the committee have any pecuniary interest with respect to the application being heard? Any pecuniary interests? Seeing none. And I have another announcement. Under the Subdivision Planning Act, section 3414.5, if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Grimsby in respect of the proposed plan of subdivisions before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the draft plan of subdivision, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the town of Grimsby to the local planning appeal tribunal. 2, if a person or a public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Grimsby in respect of the draft plan of subdivision before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal. In the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. All right, so are we starting with a presentation, Nancy? Walter. All right, thanks, Walter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a statutory public meeting to hear comments from the public with regard to a draft plan of subdivision application. This application or this proposed development came before council a few years ago with regard to the zoning for the site. The application was refused by council and it was appealed to the local appeals tribunal by the applicant. The appeals tribunal approved the application or upheld the appeal in part for zoning for RD3 zoning along Bartlett Avenue and for RD1 zoning along Park Road. The professional planner representing the application, his name is James Webb, as you see him there on the screen. He has prepared a report which will briefly outline some of the background to the application and some of the details of the proposal. I'll hand it over to James.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of the committee and ladies and gentlemen. Can everyone hear me okay?
All good for here.
For you, yep.
Good. All right. That's always the most important way to begin. Again, thank you very much for that, Walter, and good evening, everyone. I'm going to keep my comments fairly brief. You do have before you a staff report, an information report that's been prepared by town planning staff that provides you the background of this development application and provides as well as an exhaustive review of the proposal in the context of your adopted official plan policies. Those information reports are essentially intended to be objective. They just provide you with the framework. There's no opinions per se in those for the purposes of this meeting, which is really just to garner public input into the proposal. And we understand that staff at a subsequent meeting will bring forward a recommendation report, ideally containing a recommendation to approve and outlining a number of conditions of draft plan approval. What I'd like to do quickly, if everyone is not intimately familiar with the location of the property, I'll just run through a quick couple of slides to show you the location of lands, the character of the existing adjoining development, the proposal that was initially tabled before the LPAT, and then the updated proposal that's subsequently before the town for draft plan approval. So Bianca, if I may, if we'll just go quickly to the next slide. So again, here is the subject property. It's in, I'll call it I hate north, south, east, and west anytime you're near the lake, because I grew up in Toronto and I live in Hamilton, and Grimsby's on the opposite side. So we're just gonna go with the lake is to the north. This is essentially in the southeast quadrant of the urban area of the town of Grimsby. At the top of the page, you can see Main Street East, and the property has frontage on Park Road South and Bartlett Avenue. At least the portion of Bartlett Avenue that is presently open and constructed. As you head further north up the escarpment, you can see the balance of that road alignment that's been protected and is currently being reviewed for the potential of an additional escarpment crossing. What's interesting about the area is that it does have a very unique character, and what we've essentially labeled on that map is lands to the west of Park Road, I think are clearly identified as a stable residential neighborhood. It exhibits homes that were all built in about the same time period, and a predominant character of larger lots, smaller homes, a lot of bungalows, homes generally developed in about the 1950s. The quadrant between Park Road and Bartlett Avenue is a bit of a mixed bag. There's some newer contemporary homes and architecture that have been developed by way of severance applications, and a mix of older homes. And you can just tell from that lot fabric that it's very sort of varied and based on sort of opportunistic application for severance to create new lots. To the east, on the opposite side of Bartlett Avenue, is an area of newer, more contemporary development. Lands fronting onto Muscat Drive are developed for what I'll call, new standard single-family detached dwellings. There's a small townhouse project. Under the word east, there's a small condominium development. And what was acknowledged when the board went through this is it was acknowledged that that area to the east is very much reflective of newer, more intense development. The lands to the west, very much so a more stable neighborhood that needed to be treated carefully with regards to ensuring compatibility and fit of new development. The subject property is there in the middle. You can see that it does have frontage on the Park Road South, a total of 30 meters, and then frontage along its back on Bartlett Avenue. The property was until recently occupied by a church. It's since been demolished, and the lands remain vacant and are now pending for redevelopment. The next couple of slides just give you some further examples in terms of what the built form, the characteristics are of the area. So Bianca, if we could just go to the next slide. So again, here's some of the imagery and just predominant built form character for that area to the west, that stable neighborhood. So you see again, larger lots, bungalows, side driveways, generally houses well set back from the street. Next slide, please. These are some examples of some homes on Park Road South. Again, you can see varying architecture just based on the period they're built and predominant, desires of homeowners. These are all essentially custom homes. And next page. And this is the area that I referred to as the newer, more recently developed. So again, a newer plan of subdivision, that's Muscat Drive on the left. And you can see, again, newer single-family detached dwellings, variety of architectural styles and conditions. Next slide. As Walter mentioned, the application was initially submitted by my clients, and I do apologize. I should have introduced for you. Ken Gagne and Matt Vartanian are also with us tonight from Mountain View Homes, and they'll assist me if anything comes up in that regard in terms of needing their assistance. Sorry about that, fellas. This is the basis of an application for zone change that was submitted to the town back in July of 2018. We had sought a rezoning of the property that would have facilitated its creation into a total of 6 development lots, 2 fronting on Park Road South and 4 lots on Bartlett Avenue. The matter was considered by the town, and a recommendation to deny the zone change was adopted by town council, resulting in an appeal. Through that appeal, that was a hearing in January, I believe, of 2019, the board actually came back with an interesting decision. The board said that we can't support this development predominantly because of the interface along the Park Road frontage. They didn't accept the evidence that 2 homes would still maintain a degree of compatibility, and the board found that in fact they preferred only a single dwelling that would be oriented along that frontage. The board did, although, adopt some of the evidence from the town planner, wherein the town planner in their initial staff report to council had suggested that as an alternative, 5 lots could be developed along the Bartlett Avenue frontage. So the board order essentially spoke to the parties to say, we're denying your application for 2 lots on Park Road South, but we're prepared to consider a final bylaw to be developed amongst the parties that would allow for the fulsome development of the property. What was agreed based on the input from Mountain View and ourselves is that the preferred option, if we'll go to the next slide, which is the actual application that's before you today. This is the draft plan of subdivision. It's a total of 5 lots. You can see the larger lot is retained on Park Road South, and the Bartlett Avenue frontage is divided into a total of 4 lots. We felt that that was more appropriate and applicable to the context in terms of, again, maintaining appropriate lot sizes, lot widths, and lot areas to, again, acknowledge that this is a transition point between the lands to the west and the lands further to the east, and it provides what we think is orderly development. With that, Mr. Chairman, I think I'll cease my comments at that point. I won't go into the in-depth policy analysis unless you'd really like to hear some growth plan and provincial policy statement discussion this evening. If not, I'd be more than happy to withhold that information for the time being. You do have a staff report, as I said, from Walter that does provide you a review in the context of the official plan. And we do look forward to finishing the processing of the application and coming back before committee and council for adoption of a recommendation for draft plan approval with a series of conditions of draft plan approval based on all of the feedback that's being garnered from your internal municipal divisions and the external agencies, including the Region of Niagara and the Conservation Authority. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd be pleased to assist committee with any questions they may have regarding the background or any questions from the area residents. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, James. Need to get that screen off so I can see if there's any speakers. Any comments from council, or do we have public comments?
Public comments first.
All right, public comments first. All right, Mr. Verberg, welcome, Al.
Thank you. Are you waiting for me to make a comment or not?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you. You're waiting for me. So,
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Al.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. I appreciate. Basically, I just want to make sure about my biggest concern of the whole lot thing is drainage. I've been living in this. I'm right next door to the property that's presently under discussion. I'm in 7A, and my biggest concern is drainage. So I just want to basically make sure that this is something that is looked into and is dealt with throughout the whole process. Thank you.
Walter, did you want to comment on the drainage?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the engineering for the development will, the detailed engineering review will commence once draft plan approval is given by council. And if council gives draft plan approval, there will be a number of draft plan conditions, I presume. We will receive comments not only from our Public Works Department, but from the region as well, who are the road authority. These agencies will review in detail the engineering plans that would be submitted one of the primary focuses of those engineering reviews will be the disposition of drainage to the site and off the site. So that would be one of the more important issues that we need to address. And it will be addressed in detail with the detailed review of engineering plans following the decision of council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. King Gong Yu, you are up next with your
Yes,
comments. Welcome.
yes, I just have a response to that question. There was a full set of engineering drawings submitted with the application, along with the planning justification report. The site servicing plans were designed by Scott Llewellyn Engineering. And one of the main principles of subdivision plans is that the post-development runoff, in other words, the amount of runoff from drainage after the development is complete, cannot exceed the pre-development runoff. So whatever is on the site now has to be the same amount of drainage as when the site is completely developed. And so that will be taken care of. There's also some retaining walls, and the site servicing drawings accept all the water that's coming onto the property and dealing with the delivery of that water to the storm drainage system when it's complete. That's all I would have to say about that.
Great. Thank you for those comments. Councillor Vardy?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. And I guess the first one is the lot on Park Road. If I look at the other houses, the orientation seems to be different than the other houses in that. There you go. Don't worry, it's okay. The others are sort of like, I mean, they're all oblong, but some are oblong facing the road, and some are, yours seems to be kind of a lengthways, if that's making any sense. And I'm just wondering why you're not making the orientation the same as the other. That's question one. And question two is, I guess I'm concerned about privacy. I mean, these are fairly large lots, which is great. You know, I'm assuming that these are two-story houses on the lots on Bartlett. So what kind of like line of sight do they have into the neighbor's yard? And will you, I mean, that's a fairly treed area. So will you be maintaining those trees, like not taking them down? So those are my questions.
I'm happy to assist with that, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. That's great, James.
In regards to the first question, I apologize for that. I accept that the drawing has created some confusion. What you're actually seeing on the drawing is the footprint from the former church. So that's not meant to in any way represent a proposed house footprint. I can tell you that the zoning has been worked on carefully between ourselves, the builder and staff, in order to control what does in fact happen there. We've put a relatively lower lot coverage at 25% to ensure that, yes, it is a larger lot, but by putting a lower lot coverage, that does control to a degree the massing of what can occur on there. And we've also put in place. Is it a two-story home? Yes, the zoning for both. Will that be? Yeah, the zoning for both, or in fact all 5 lots, did not seek any modifications to the in-force height regulations of the bylaw, which is a maximum height of 9 meters, which according to your Grimsby zoning bylaw is measured midway between the peak of the roof and the gutters of the roof. So there is no change proposed. So two stories maximum, 9 meters maximum. With regard to your comment as to the lots on the back, when you're referring to line of sight, are you referring to the homes on the opposite side of Bartlett or the immediately adjoining? I
guess what I'm referring to is, let's say if they're 2-story homes and you're looking out your window at the back, are you going to be looking into your neighbor's yard, or, you know, is there enough distance that you're not seeing that?
Yeah,
or will you be maintaining the trees so that that privacy still exists?
yeah, we obviously, we have a variety of interfaces here. The setback regulations, again, in terms of the rear yards, we're not seeking any modifications. Well, through the LPAT decision, there was no reductions in the rear yard setbacks. So the setbacks are what you would typically expect with this form of contemporary development. Angular planes, there's certainly adequate separation distance such that those privacy issues would be respected. With regards to any vegetation, I haven't seen all of the comments yet, but a standard condition of approval is to undertake full and complete tree inventories of all existing vegetation around the periphery of the property, identify which of those trees can be retained subject to the detailed engineering design, and then those trees that are to be retained be protected through development and supplemented through landscaping. So that very issue about how do you treat the periphery of the development to maintain compatibility through vegetation is something that will be addressed through one of the subsequent conditions of draft plan approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. So I've followed this development since I think it was 2017 that it started moving along with the open houses. And I just have a couple of questions. This is more for planning staff. I understand from the previous report that the applicant is going to have to extend the sewer and water lines to this development. I just wondered, with the lot 5, I think it is the one the closest to the escarpment, the minimum lot size is 500 square meters. And I'm just wondering, because it's on a region road, if there's any setbacks from the regions, from the road line to the lot line for the region for road widening with respect to the Bartlett, perhaps the Bartlett crossing, if there's any potential for takeaway from the frontage of that lot, which is the smallest, the 500 square meters, which is in the ZBA, the minimum, the potential is that by take back from the front yard, they could not be in compliance with the zoning bylaw. So I'm just wondering if there's a potential for that and the potential for the region to do a take back of some frontage in respect to road widening. And waste collection, there currently isn't any homes other than that estate home at the end of the road, I think. So I'm just wondering if the region has agreed to two things. Has the region agreed to entrances? Because I think it says in the official plan or in the thing there that the region has to agree to have accesses onto a regional road. So is there any requirement for the region to approve the driveways onto that regional road as well? And I understand there's no sidewalk on that side. So is there any safety issue with people in those 4 homes? Because I think there's only not even a real sidewalk on the other side of the street. It's just kind of like a little bit of a paved area. So, you know, is that safe for pedestrians to be in those homes and having to cross a very, very busy road with no sidewalks, that kind of stuff? So I don't know if there's been any thought about whether or not a sidewalk has to be installed on one side or the other side of the road. I think that's it. Sorry, I kind of rolled them all together.
Walter, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your questions, Ms. Bothwell. With regard to, there are basically 3 items, road widening, waste collection, and sidewalk. With respect to the road widening, it's something that the region would ask for as a condition of draft plan approval if they require it. Bartlett Avenue in this particular location is quite wide, but they may require a widening. However, through the zoning amendment process and the initial circulation of the original subdivision, they did not provide any comments with respect to widening. So I would suggest that it's not likely that they will ask for a widening in this particular case. With respect to waste collection, the proposed lots do front onto a public road. So I would suspect that they would be subject to the region's waste collection. And sidewalk, this would be an issue that would be undertaken by the region and by our Public Works Department to determine whether or not sidewalks are appropriate. As you know, currently Bartlett Avenue is a dead-end street, so there may not be a need for a sidewalk currently. However, I believe there's a sidewalk from Muscat Drive north. So it's only these 4 lots that would have frontage onto Bartlett Avenue at this time, south of Muscat Drive. At any time in the future, if and when the Bartlett Avenue gets extended, things like sidewalks, road design, and whatnot, they would be part of the EA process.
Thanks. I'm just a little concerned because the lot frontage is 7.5 meters. And if there's any region take back or a requirement to put in sidewalks, and I think that we need to look forward thinking here that this is what the plan is for Bartlett. And we're leaving these homes sort of hanging there on the end. You know, and if there is potential for additional, which there is potential for additional development on the lot across the street from it. And next to it, I think there's another parcel there. And there's a few other transition parcels I noted in the drawing that Mr. Webb showed. So there's a potential for further intensification along Bartlett. And I'm just concerned that we're not maybe looking at meeting those needs of what's to come. So I would worry that if we put in something that's that size of a lot, and then we have to go and then take back from the frontage or put in the sidewalks, that we're reducing the lot size according to the minimum lot size required, and perhaps there's safety issues there. So I just think maybe when we look at this, we have to look holistically long range as to what that future plan is and what other developments may occur around it, and that we accommodate for that. So it's just my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Walter?
Yeah. Thank you again. These, through you, Mr. Mayor, these issues again are reviewed holistically with the future in mind. The sidewalk construction, if it's required, would take place within the right-of-way. So if you look at any aerial photographs that we have, maybe even on, we'll present it in the future when it comes forward for a recommendation. But again, all the agencies that would have input with regard to things like sidewalks, road construction, and the future use of Bartlett Avenue as an example. These are issues that will be addressed thoroughly through the region or through the town by the region and our Public Works Department. So I assure you that these issues will be addressed in detail.
That's great. Thank you very much, Walter.
Councillor Frake?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that Dorothy or Councillor Bothwell asked most of the questions. I think James probably answered most of them. My biggest concern is that this is going to be one of the most heavily used roads in Grimsby. The extension is going to be heavily used by large trucks and so on and so forth. It'll be a really, really busy road. We don't know what that road's going to look like or how it's going to go up the escarpment. I don't know if Region had any input into how that road might affect those developments going forward. It's probably many years down the road, but Al mentioned drainage, for example. How do we know how that road is going to affect drainage in those lots somewhere down the road when they do build the extension? So I don't know what the answer is, because we don't know what that road's going to look like. But I would assume that the region has had some, or should have, a huge amount of input into those developments along that road. So I don't know, James, if you want to address that, or Walter, has the region had a lot of input into this particular development? If not, they should.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that the region was involved at the zone change stage, and the region also did provide written comments when we first submitted our application for draft plan of subdivision. Admittedly, the comments from November 2018, but that comment letter did canvass all of those very issues that I'm hearing members of the committee raise this evening. It spoke to garbage. It spoke to the potential of the EA and Bartlett becoming an escarpment crossing, and it spoke to land requirements. So I'll just sort of work backwards and try and tick them off. So the region looked at the concept, the draft plan, and did not raise any concerns with regards to road widening. So as part of that, they'd satisfied themselves that what they presently have in terms of a road allowance potential width was satisfactory, wouldn't require any future widenings. Garbage, again, the comments are, provided the development meets their design criteria. The garbage trucks are presently coming onto that section of Bartlett. There's a turnaround at the end of the road. They did not raise any concerns with the ability of these lots to meet their design standards. And with regards to the future, if and when this does in fact become an escarpment crossing and traffic volumes increase, appreciate that that was one of our, I guess, design considerations when we landed on 5 lots instead of 4, because 5 lots gives us slightly larger lot widths. And as we go through the design exercise, we may in fact decide to put hammerheads in so the cars don't have to back out onto the road. So that's something we'll look at as we get into the detailed engineering stage. But it's, again, it was the forethought into the design, anticipating what the future circumstances might be, such that there's no concerns with regards to public health and safety. So I believe that answers your questions. If I omitted or missed any specific, please clarify, and I'll address it as I can.
No, you pretty much addressed them. I just, yeah, safety would definitely be an issue, especially access and egress onto the road, that busy road down the road. I just hope that the potential future buyers of those properties are fully aware of what's ahead of them in terms of that road. It's in my ward, and I know that I had a lot of concerns from the folks on Muscat when I was campaigning about the extension. So hopefully when the folks buy those Mountain View homes, which are, by the way, I live in a Mountain View home, and Colin, and so hopefully they will be aware of what they're buying into.
Okay, so the placeholder on that last comment is, I think we'll just need to be mindful when we come back on conditions that we do include effectively a warning clause that will go on title.
Okay.
We can work on the wording with regional and town planning staff.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, James. Any further comments? Yes, go ahead. I think you're muted still.
How's that?
That's better.
Okay, sorry. One of the things about when that regional road is ever extended or improved, the region would have to do an environmental assessment, and that would bring in the town of Grimsby and all of the area residents that are affected by that work would have an opportunity to comment on what they would like to see in the improvement of that road, in terms of, it might be sidewalks, it might be streetscaping, it might be the style of curbs and the style of driveway entries, and all of that would be provide an opportunity for area residents in the town to comment to the region on how that should be designed. And then they would have to assess all of those comments and then design accordingly. So all of those types of things provide that environmental assessment provides the municipality and area residents with the opportunity to comment on that in the future, or the municipality to require certain things to meet the town's expectations.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. There's no one else from the public, is there? No. All right, seeing no further questions, we have a resolution to receive the report. Need a mover and seconder. Councillor Vardy moved, seconded Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that report PA 20-23 be received as information. All in favor?
I guess I can't
That's
vote
carried.
on the committee, right?
Yeah, that's carried. All right, that's it. Is there any other business? All right, there's seeing no further business. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Hey, thank
And
you.
everybody.
Thank you all very much.